The station floated quietly at the edge of known space, far from Earth and far from war. It was called Outpost Vega 7, built for science, not battle. 10 humans lived there, researchers, engineers, a few security staff. They were studying deep space signals, scanning for ancient messages and forgotten worlds. It was peaceful work. Boring, even, until the signals stopped. One moment, Earth Command was receiving regular reports. The next, silence. At first, they thought it was a technical glitch. Happens all the time with faraway stations. But then, the backup channels went dead. Emergency signals didn't come through. Even the distress beacons weren't responding. That's when Commander Rain was called in. Rain wasn't a scientist. He didn't like quiet places or distant stars. He was a soldier trained for war, not mysteries. When Earth Command asked him to lead a recon team to Vega 7, he didn't ask questions. He suited up, called in 3 trusted squad mates, and boarded a fast ship. In less than 2 days, they reached the outpost. What they found wasn't silence. It was destruction. The station had been hit from orbit. Walls melted, systems burned out. Everything was scorched and broken. There were no bodies. Just blackened rooms and cracked helmets. Rain's boots crunched on glass and ash as he walked the halls. Anyone here? He called. No answer. Not even the whisper of wind from life support. His second-in-command, Mara, found the main control room. Somehow, the black box had survived. They played the last security recording. The room went cold. On the screen, they saw the researchers gathered. In the mess hall, a normal day. People laughing, eating. Then, a sound low and strange rattled the walls. The lights flickered. And then they came, tall, dark-armored creatures, fast and silent, not machines. Not known aliens. These were something else. They didn't even shoot, Mara said quietly. Just cut them down. Rain's jaw tightened. The creatures moved with precision. One shot to disable. One strike to kill. They worked together like a hive. One researcher tried to run. She was pulled down and dragged off screen. The others were finished in seconds. The recording ended with a red flash. A warning. Vorak presence detected. Rain knew that name. Everyone in the military did. The Vorak were the galaxy's ghost story, apex hunters. A species so deadly, most governments refused to speak of them. Long ago, they had ruled through fear and violence. Then one day, they disappeared. No one knew why. Now they were back and killing humans. Rain didn't speak. He just stared at the screen. Mara broke the silence. Should we return to Earth? Rain looked around the room, at the shattered screens, the broken chairs. The blood smeared across the metal floor. No, he said. We send the data first, then we return. Earth needs to see this with their own eyes. They uploaded the footage, activated the black box transmitter, and left the dead station behind. Back on Earth, the footage hit the Council like a storm. Leaders of Earth, Mars, and the colonies watched in silence. So did representatives from the Galactic Coalition. When the video ended, a few turned away. One of the alien delegates left the room entirely. They were Vorak, said Rain, standing straight. And they killed our people without reason. They must have been provoked, a coalition elder said. No, Rain replied firmly. They came to test us, to see how we'd react. A quiet voice spoke from the shadows. It was Director Hawley, Earth's highest defense official. And how should we react, Commander? Rain didn't hesitate. We should show them that we're not afraid. That night, Rain sat alone in his quarters. The lights were dim. A photo rested on the desk. His sister, smiling, wearing a Vega 7 patch on her arm. She'd been one of the scientists. He closed his eyes and remembered her voice. Calm kind, always telling him to slow down, to stop fighting everything. She believed in peace, in exploring the stars without weapons. She used to laugh when he cleaned his rifle before breakfast. He had never told her, but he admired her courage. Now, she was gone, murdered by something that thought humans were easy prey. Rain opened a small drawer and pulled out a chipped metal badge. It was from his first mission years ago. The words on the back were clear. We don't start fights, but we finish them. His eyes burned, but he didn't cry. He had done that already on the flight back from Vega-7. Now, he needed something else. Purpose. In the shadows of deep space, the Vorak moved. No broadcasts, no demands, only silence and destruction. Their ships were black as night, their movements sharp and sudden. Other species stayed quiet, hoping not to be noticed, but Earth wasn't built for silence, and Rain wasn't built to run. Somewhere, in a forgotten corner of space, he began to gather a team. Not diplomats, not politicians. Soldiers, engineers, scouts, people who had lost something, not for defense, for revenge. The Vorak didn't just wake an enemy, they woke humanity, and they were about to learn what kind of species they had. Provoked. Shadows of the Vorakthi world, called Fortis Base, was not marked on any star maps. It was hidden inside a cold asteroid field, protected by old Earth war satellites. No diplomats came here, no reporters. Only those with scars, losses, or a reason to fight. This was where Commander Rain came to build his team, after the attack. On Vega-7, Earth Command had done what most governments do when afraid. They talked. Meetings, votes, warnings. The Galactic Council advised caution. They said the Vorak might still be reasoned with. Rain knew better. He had seen the Vorak in action. They didn't talk. They didn't give warnings. They only killed. So Rain didn't wait for permission. He started calling in old favors. One by one, people arrived at Fortis Base. Soldiers who had retired. Pilots who had been grounded. Engineers who had seen too much. They all had one thing in common: someone they loved had been lost to the Vorak, or to wars started by cowardly politicians. Among them was Tess, a skilled pilot who once flew through a plasma storm to rescue a stranded ship. Her brother had been a technician on Vega-7. There was Dale, a demolitions expert with burns on half his body, scars from a failed colony defense where the Vorak had wiped out an entire town. And Lena, a quiet alien tech specialist. Her people were among the first the Vorak had hunted long ago. She was one of the few who survived. Rain welcomed them all. He stood before the team in the cold steel room at the center of the base. The Council won't stop them, he said. They'll wait until Earth is burning before they act. His voice was calm but strong. We're not waiting. We're going to strike first. We're going to find where the Vorak are hiding. And we're going to hurt them. A silence followed, heavy and full of old pain. Then Tess stepped forward. I'm in for my brother. Dale nodded. Let's burn them to ash. Even Lena raised her eyes. I'll help you find them. Rain gave a single sharp nod. Then let's begin. The Vorak were masters of hiding. They used stealth drives, signal jammers, and moved through dead sectors where no light shone. But they weren't perfect. After the Vega-7 attack, Earth picked up strange energy spikes in a dark system known as Eclipta Reach. Lena studied the patterns and found something odd. The spikes repeated every 6 days like a pulse. She believed it was a refueling or repair station, a hidden Vorak outpost. Rain looked at the map. Eclipta Reach was far from any patrol routes, no colonies, no traffic. A perfect hiding place. He smiled grimly. That's where we go. The journey took 3 days. Tess flew the ship through old mining routes and abandoned wormholes. Every system was shut down except life support to avoid detection. No lights, no noise. Just the hum of engines and the tension in their chests. As they neared the system, Dale checked the weapons. If this turns bad, we won't last long. We're not here to fight a fleet, Rain said. We're here to find out what they're building and why. They dropped out of light speed near a dead moon. The Vorak station was barely visible, just a dark shape floating above the planet, masked by shadows and false signals. Tess whispered, "They're hiding something big." Rain nodded, "Get us closer." Using silent thrusters, they approached the station. Lena tapped into the comms and found a weak signal, a data stream going to multiple coordinates across the galaxy. "It's not just a base," she said. "It's a command relay." Rain leaned over her shoulder. The files showed blueprints, troop movements, even testing reports. Then he saw something that made his blood freeze. "They're mapping Earth's defenses," Lena said softly. Rain's hands clenched. The Vorak weren't just attacking random stations. They were planning a full-scale invasion. "They think we're weak," Dale muttered. Rain stood up. "Then we show them we're not." They downloaded as much as they could. Before leaving, Dale planted a small device near the base reactor, a tracking beacon. If the Vorak moved the station, Earth could still follow them, but as they returned to the ship, a deep sound echoed through the dark. "They've been spotted. Move!" Rain shouted. From the shadows, Vorak drones shot forward fast and silent. Red lights blinked on their chests. They opened fire. Tess sprinted to the cockpit. The ship's hull shook as laser blasts hit the side. Rain fired back with a pulse rifle, taking out 2 drones. Dale threw a flash charge, blinding a few more. Lena was hit in the leg but kept crawling, dragging the data pack behind her. Rain grabbed her and pulled her aboard. Tess shouted, "We're lifting off, hold tight." The engines roared. The ship broke free, dodging between floating rocks and enemy fire. Dale manned the rear guns, shouting, "They're still on us." Rain looked back as the Vorak station shrank behind them. "This isn't over," he muttered. Back on Fortis base, the team patched their wounds and studied the stolen data. It confirmed what Rain feared. The Vorak had been watching humanity for years, testing their weaknesses, recording their battles, preparing to strike when Earth was at its most divided. And Vega 7? It had been a test. A small cold warning now came. The real threat. But this time, humanity wouldn't wait to be hunted. Rain stood before the team again. His voice was low, serious. "We're not just a scouting party anymore. We're the tip of the spear." He looked around the room, at the bruised faces, the tired eyes, the quiet fire behind them all. "They think we're prey. Let's prove them wrong." Into the Maw Commander Rain stared at the main screen of Fortis base. It showed the Vorak's movements, troop numbers, supply routes, and most importantly, the location of something called the War-Core. It wasn't a name. It was a code. Lena, sitting beside him, explained, "The War Core is not a base. It's a whole planet. It builds their weapons, their ships, and feeds their army. It's their heart." Rain narrowed his eyes. "If we break their heart, the whole body dies." He looked at his team, tired but ready. They had seen death. They had escaped death. And now, they were going to walk into it willingly. The journey to the War Core wasn't easy. The planet sat in a dead zone called Black Hollow, surrounded by radiation clouds and storm fields. No maps existed for it. No safe routes in or out. Only the Vorak moved through it with ease, but Lena had cracked their navigation codes. Using stolen coordinates, she guided their ship, the Dagger, through the dangerous space. It was slow, like flying through fire and fog. Inside the ship, no one talked much. Tess focused on the controls. Dale sat near the weapons. Rain stood in the middle, watching stars twist outside the windows. Finally, after 2 days of silent flying, they saw it, a black planet, floating like a wound in space. Red lights blinked across its surface. Shipyards hung in orbit. The Vorak were building something massive, rows of warships, each bigger than anything humans had ever built. Rain whispered, "They're getting ready for war." Dale muttered, "Or for extinction." The team couldn't land near the war factories. The defense grid was too strong. So they slipped in on the dark side of the planet, near a forgotten trench canyon dot as they walked through the black soil. They saw things they would never forget. Prison cages, filled with beings from dozens of species. Some Rain didn't even recognize. Weak, thin, silent. Most were half alive. The Vorak were using them as test subjects for weapons, poison, armor. Lena stepped back, her hands shaking. My people. This happened to us centuries ago. Rain's voice was cold. It's still happening. They moved carefully through the camp, planting motion mines and mapping the patrol routes. Dale used old Earth tech to jam the cameras. Tess hacked into the local signal to send false readings. Their goal was simple: find the War Core reactor, plant charges, and blow it sky high. But things changed when they found the lab. Inside the lab, they saw Vorak scientists around a strange table. On it was a map of Earth, not just the surface. Deep scans, military bases, energy centers, defense satellites. Every weakness marked in red. A countdown timer ticked below the map. 6 days. Rain gritted his teeth. They're going to attack Earth in 6 days. Lena nodded slowly. And they're ready. Dale growled, we can't just blow up this place. We need to warn Earth. Rain stared at the data. We do both. He looked at the lab's comm station. Lena, send the intel to Fortis. Full. Data burst. Dale, prepare the charges. We end this today. The clock started ticking. Lena stayed behind to send the transmission. Dale and Tess followed Rain through the tunnels to the War Core's heart. Deep below the surface, they found a fusion core the size of a mountain surrounded by machines, weapons, and Vorak guards. Rain signaled silently. One by one, they moved. Tess dropped smoke bombs. Dale planted charges. Rain fired clean shots, taking out guards with speed and silence. But they couldn't stay hidden forever. An alarm screamed. Red lights lit the tunnels. Vorak troops swarmed from every direction. Run! Rain shouted. They dashed through the smoke. Dale got hit, his shoulder bleeding, but kept moving. Tess covered the rear, her rifle blasting sparks. Rain reached the final tunnel and turned back. Where's Lena? Dale gasped. She's still at the station. Rain hesitated for 1 second, then ran. Lena was surrounded. 3 Vorak soldiers closed in. She held a small pulse pistol, hands shaking. 1 Vorak lunged, but a gunshot dropped it. Rain slid in from the side, rifle blazing. Lena cried out. I sent the message. Earth has it. Rain grabbed her hand. Then let's go. They ran through fire, chased by Vorak drones. Tess met them at the evac point, holding the ramp open. Let's move. Dale was already inside, arm wrapped in cloth. The ship lifted just as the charges in the tunnels exploded. The ground shook. Towers fell. Lights went out. And then boom. The core exploded in a wave of blue fire. Half the War Core lit up, breaking into pieces. Ships above began to drift. Communications dropped. Everything went dark. The Vorak were blind. Tess flew them out fast, dodging wreckage and fireballs. The dagger burst through the storm and into open space. Behind them, the War Core planet cracked apart. Back at Fortis base, the message had arrived. Earth now knew the truth. The Vorak were coming, and humanity had 6 days to prepare. But thanks to Rain's team, Earth also knew how to fight back. The War Core was gone. Vorak command was crippled. And their fear had just begun. Rain sat in the medical bay, patching Lena's arm. Dale was asleep nearby, breathing steady. Tess walked in, holding a datapad. She smiled slightly. Earth just sent a reply. Rain looked up. They want to talk? No, she said. They want to fight. Rain leaned back and whispered. Good, because so do we. The enemy awakens. The news of the War Core's destruction spread across the galaxy like fire in dry grass. For the first time in many years, the Vorak were afraid. They didn't understand how a small human strike Team had broken through their defenses. They didn't know who Rain was or how he found them. But they knew this. Humanity had just declared war, and the Vorak answered. 3 days after the explosion, a Vorak fleet entered human space. They didn't send a message. They didn't ask questions. They simply attacked a small border planet called Calderon-3. It was a farming world, home to 50,000 people. Now, it was silent. Commander Rain stood at the edge of Fortis Base's command room. FISTS tight. They're trying to send a message, he said. Tess nodded, her voice low. We sent one first. Lena worked at the console. They're moving fast. More ships coming from the edge of the hollow. How many? Rain asked. She hesitated. Hundreds. Rain's jaw tightened. And Earth? They've begun. Defense protocols, she said. Shields up, drones activated. But they're still not ready for a full war. Rain looked around at his team, tired, healing, but still standing. Then we'll buy them time. Fortis Base was not built for large-scale war, but it had one advantage: secrecy. The Vorak didn't know it existed yet. Rain used that to his benefit. In the next 48 hours, they began coordinating with other hidden units across human space. Old warships were pulled from storage. Engineers reactivated broken satellites. Civilians were trained to defend. Earth Command finally stepped up. They gave Rain full control over a secret fleet called Shield.7, a group of fast, mid-sized attack ships with stealth drives and long-range weapons. We'll hit them where it hurts, Rain told the crew. We don't stop the war. We turn it back on them. Meanwhile, Lena found something in the data they had stolen from the War Corps. The Vorak were building a weapon, not just any weapon, something ancient, something forbidden even by their own kind. It was hidden in a system called Noxus, beyond a dead star. A planet filled with ruins and tech from long before the Vorak ruled the stars. They call it the Mouth of the Void. Lena said, it's not just a weapon, it's alive. Rain frowned. How long before it's ready? 4 days, she replied. Rain stood up. Then we end this before it begins. The plan was risky. Rain would take Shield.7 and attack the Noxus system directly. Meanwhile, Fortis Base would stay hidden and keep sending false signals to confuse the Vorak. Lena stayed on base to keep the signal running. Dale, still bandaged from the last mission, offered to go with Rain. Tess would pilot the lead ship. They had 27 ships in total. The Vorak had hundreds, but only one side had humans angry enough to fight, like they had nothing left to lose. They launched at midnight. The ships moved fast, quiet as shadows, through broken space lanes and abandoned gates. By the time the Vorak picked up the signals, it was too late. Rain's fleet dropped out of light speed above NOx. The planet was a nightmare. Black towers rose from the surface, pulsing with red light. Vorak ships circled it like vultures. At the center, inside a huge metal crater, something massive moved. It wasn't shaped like a ship. It was long, with sharp curves and open mouths across its surface. It hummed with energy and something else. Hunger. Tess whispered. That thing is alive. Rain didn't blink. Then let's kill it. The attack began with missiles and EMP bursts. Vorak defense ships moved to intercept, but Rain's team had the advantage of surprise. They broke through the first wave, clearing a path toward the creature. Dale and Rain jumped into a boarding pod and crashed straight onto the surface of the weapon. It was warm, like living skin mixed with metal. Rain fired at anything that moved. Dale planted bombs along the glowing lines running down the creature's back. 10 minutes and this thing goes down. Dale shouted. Inside the main control tower, Vorak commanders screamed in confusion. This wasn't supposed to happen. The enemy was not supposed to be here, but Rain was already inside. He stormed into the control chamber, taking out guards with fast, clean shots. He reached the command core, a brain-like system pulsing with energy. He pulled out a data stick and plugged it in. Lena, He said into the mic. I'm in. Back at Fortis, Lena smiled and typed fast. Her virus entered the Vorak system. It broke their codes, scrambled their maps, blinded their weapons. Across space, Vorak ships began to spin out of control. The creatures screamed, not with sound, but with waves of energy. A shockwave hit Rain and Dale, knocking them off their feet. This thing is waking up. Dale shouted. Rain looked up. The sky above them cracked open. A rift in space tore apart, and something darker began to slip through. Rain whispered, It's not a weapon, it's a gate. And the Vorak were planning to open it fully. Rain stood fast. Set the charges. We end this now. Dale triggered the timer. 5 minutes. They ran, barely dodging falling pieces of metal and flame. Tess swooped in with the ship, pulling them up just in time. Get us out of here. Rain yelled. Behind them, the creature shook violently. The bombs exploded deep in its spine. The light vanished from its surface. The red towers cracked and crumbled. The gate above closed with a final flash dot, and then silence. The Vorak weapon was gone. Back at Fortis base, the team regrouped. Rain stood in front of a screen showing the remains of the Noxus system. Most of the Vorak ships had fled. The rest were lost with the weapon. He looked at his team. We stopped their invasion. But they're not done, Lena added. They'll come back. Maybe not tomorrow, but someday. Rain nodded. And when they do, they'll remember this. He turned toward the stars beyond the window. They wanted a war. We gave them one. Now they know. We fight back. We are not afraid. 3 days had passed since the destruction of the Vorak's living weapon on Noxus. The stars were quiet. Too quiet. Rain stood at the window of Fortis base, staring into space. His team was safe. Earth was preparing. But something still felt wrong. They're not running, Rain said. They're planning. Lena nodded. They lost their weapon, their war core. But they still have numbers, Tess added. And hate. That hasn't changed. Dale stepped into the room, arms still bandaged, face grim. They just attacked another border station, he said. No warning, no demands. Rain didn't flinch. Any survivors? Dale shook his head. None. A cold silence filled the room. They're trying to break us, Rain said. Scare us into surrendering. But it won't work, Lena replied. We're not afraid anymore. That same day, Earth Command called Rain. The screen flickered, and the High Council appeared. You have done more than we ever expected. The lead counselor said, but the Vorak are coming. We can't stop them alone. Rain didn't move, then don't. The counselor raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Rain looked at the stars behind him. They've attacked dozens of species, wiped out whole planets. But we're not the only ones who survived. I think it's time we stopped fighting alone. With permission from Earth, Rain sent a message across the galaxy, a signal of peace but also of fire, to any species, any survivors of Vorak terror. Humanity stands with you. We fought back and we won. If you're still out there, rise up, join us, let's finish this together. No one replied that day, but on the second day, a strange ship appeared near Fortis base. It wasn't human. It was old, worn, and silent. But it wasn't VOR-RAC. Lena scanned it. It's from the Kari system. Thought they were all gone. A voice came through the channel, broken, rough. We heard your call. We remember the Vorak. We will fight. An hour later, 3 more ships arrived from different corners of the galaxy. Some barely held together. Some made from scrap. All with the same message. We are not alone. Within 2 days, the number grew to 20. By the end of the week, there were 50 ships in orbit around Fortis base. Different species. Different weapons. One goal. Rain stood before them on a wide screen, his voice calm but powerful. We didn't start this war, but we'll finish it. The Vorak have ruled through fear. Today, that ends. We'll strike at their central command. Not just to survive, but to make sure they never do this again. Cheers filled the ship's dot across the galaxy. Hope returned. The final battle began in a system known as Thraxis, the heart of the Vorak Empire. Their capital planet was called Valor, surrounded by moons turned into defense stations, massive cannons, and black fleets. Rain led the charge. Earthships flew in perfect formation. Alien vessels attacked from above and below. The Vorak were prepared, but not for this. They had never seen so many enemies united. Lena's virus hit first, shutting down parts of their communication network. Tess flew straight through fire, dodging blasts like dancing wind. Dale dropped heavy charges on their main hangars. Rain's ship broke through the middle. He looked at the burning horizon and spoke into his cum. Now. From every direction, the Allied fleet attacked. Explosions lit the sky. Vorak ships fell one by one. Still they didn't give up. Their leader appeared on every screen, tall, armored in black, voice sharp like knives. You fight with insects. You are weak. We are eternal. Rain replied, cold and clear. You were, but not anymore. The battle raged for hours. Rain and his team led the charge deep into Valor's main fortress. Inside, Vorak elites waited. But they weren't ready for human rage. Tess covered the doors. Dale cleared corridors. Lena hacked into their core defenses. Rain moved like fire through steel, each step with purpose, each shot a promise. They reached the command chamber. There, the Vorak leader stood. Massive and cruel. You think you can destroy us? He growled. Rain stepped forward. No, I think we already did. He raised his weapon. The shot echoed through the hall. The Vorak leader fell. Outside, the fleet saw it. The signal stopped. The command went silent. One by one, Vorak ships began to retreat. Some fought to the last. Others fled into deep space. But the galaxy was no longer theirs. The battle was over. Back on Earth, people celebrated. Lights filled the sky. Names of lost soldiers were honored. Statues were built, not for heroes, for survivors. For those who refused to kneel, Forta's base became a symbol of unity. A place where no one was forgotten. Rain sat on a bench near the window, looking at the stars. Lena joined him, holding 2 cups of warm drink. You think it's really over? She asked. Rain took a sip, smiled slightly. No, he said. Not forever, but we're ready now. Tess and Dale walked in, laughing. The crew was whole again. They had lost much. But they had won more. They had lit a fire the Vorak could never put out. A message set loud and clear to the stars. If you come for humanity, be ready to bleed. The end.